How about this coronavirus thing, huh? Hello everyone, my name is Ethan Dunning, and this is episode 3 of the Campaign Diary. As always, the video is split into two parts. The first part where I tell you what happened, and the second part where I give you some behind-the-screen stuff and other little details that I think are pretty cool. I didn't really like the quality of the last few videos, so I thought it was very slow, so I'm going to try to talk a little bit faster in this one, hopefully get my point across a lot faster without wasting 45 minutes of your day doing everything. If you want to go ahead and skip to the second part of the video, you can go ahead and go to this timestamp. If not, you can just go ahead and continue with the video right now. When last left our heroes, the party infiltrated a goblin cave, and they fought off the goblin chieftain and the goblin shaman, and they had pretty much slaughtered everyone in there. They found out the goblin chieftain had a ring, which, what does it do? I don't know. After the battle from last episode, where they basically murdered everybody in the cave, the party decided not to pursue that lone goblin, and they decided instead to go ahead and try to identify the ring. Now, indeed, you can use a short rest to identify an item rather than using the identify spell to learn the properties of it, but whenever they took the short rest in this case, they didn't find anything. I use a little homebrew rule, and it basically means that depending on the rarity of the magic item, you have to be a certain character level in order to identify it. They were unable to identify any information from it. The party had a good idea to get Toster to see if he can identify the ring, so they took a long rest in the Goblin Cave, and they made the way up to Millburn. From there, they went and they took a journey over to Thurmaster. Once in Thurmaster, they took the ring to Toster, and he cast the Identify spell on it, but all he could learn was that it is a water-influencing item. He told them that after a few days of studying it, he may be able to give them more information. After a few days of rituals and casting the Identify spell, Toster learns that it is a ring of water elemental command, but that it is broken and that it is leaking matter from the elemental plane of water into the prime material plane. He says that the ring shouldn't cause any troubles when carried around, but if stayed in the same place for a long time, it might begin to leak so much matter that the place starts to flood, and the party recognized this as the problem happening in the Newmire. Toster decides to draft a legal document explaining what the ring does and how it is broken, and he gives it to them so that they can take it to Carmen to collect their prize. The party asks if the ring can possibly be fixed, and he says, well, I can't fix it, but I can probably take it up to a mage that I know, and he can fix it for you. It'll take a few weeks and about 200 gold pieces. The party didn't really like this idea, so they asked him if there's anything else he could do. Toster said, well, there is Shiraz the Ranger. I don't know much about him, but I've heard that he has some magic items, and maybe you could take it to him and maybe get it traded out for a magic item of your choosing. The party, satisfied with this, decided that it was high time to make their way back over to Millburn. They gathered up their things, and it was a quick trip to get over there. Once in Millburn, the party went over to Mayor Carmen's house and knocked on the door. Mayor Carmen opened it up, and he saw them, and they gave him the letter from Toster. Mayor Carmen read it over and said, alright, this makes a lot of sense, so you're sure the problem is solved? The party said yes, and Mayor Carmen reached over and he gave them a pouch of gold pieces. He said, this is your reward, the 1,000 gold for finding and fixing the problem, and the 250 gold for the 2 weeks of travel. The party was pretty happy about this, and I said, alright, you have a few weeks of downtime, so you have this money, what are you going to do? The party decided to go ahead and take 1,000 of the gold and start repairing their house, Gerald the carpenter heading the adventure. I told him it would take about a month and a half for the entire house to be fixed, but about 2 weeks until it was livable. These guys work pretty fast, it's a small town. Basically, if you've ever seen Amish people put together a barn, that's how quickly they work.
Suck on this, you furry little weirdos!
The party went over to Geralt and they said, hey Geralt, you're a ranger, so is Shiraz, and you know each other because you've called him before. Do you think that you could call him down here and he could take a look at this ring and maybe give some magic item for it? Geralt said that he would do this since the party has done a lot for the town, and he said, alright, come to my house after a few days and we should get this whole thing taken care of. After a few days, Alden goes over to Geralt's house and he sees that there's a woman there. This woman is Shiraz, and she says, alright, let me see the magic item that you have. Shiraz looks at the ring and says, well, I don't really have anything that is this powerful, but I can give you this. She hands over her handy haversack, and I can give you one future favor. Alden thinks about it for a moment, and he decides, alright, this seems like a fair trade to me. He hands over the ring. Shiraz goes on to say that this ring will be very useful. What is it useful for? The party doesn't know. The party didn't ask. Shiraz was pretty happy with his business transaction, and so when everything was said and done, they went their separate ways. Alden told the party about the handy haversack, and Shiraz took the ring to I don't know where. Party didn't ask. The party didn't really have a lot of things to do in the downtime. One thing they did is they went to the Baron of Mutton and they found Durcaster there, and he said that he had another barge job for them. He told them that this time he would pay them a total of 50 gold each for the barge job, because the barge itself was to send supplies to Count Palfrey's keep. Now the party's heard of Count Palfrey, but they've never been there, so they accept the job. Durcaster says that they will also be escorted by 2 of Count Palfrey's guards. Durcaster tells them that they will have a few days before the barge sets out, so if they want to do anything, during this time, they have some free will. Most of the party decides to just sit in and eat and, not do a lot. They don't really do anything for the next 2 weeks. Checkers, on the other hand, he goes to the only inn in town. He goes to the Silver Crown. He finds that this is a tavern for ruffians. It's very strange. He goes up to the barkeep and says, "Hey, barkeep, do you have any jobs for us?" Barkeep says, "No, don't have any jobs for you. Maybe if you're looking for something, go talk to that guy over there." Checkers looks over and he sees a dwarf. This is pretty spectacular because they haven't seen any dwarves. They've only seen humans up to this point. Checkers goes over and he buys the man a drink and he says, "Alright, do you have any jobs for me?" The dwarf looks at him and goes, "I got a job for you. Go dig a hole." Checkers is flabbergasted. "What? You hold me? Go dig a hole. I did it for 50 years. It builds character." I think Checkers says this is a little bit too literal. He says, "Alright, where can I go to dig a hole?" The old grizzly looks at him and says, "I remember back in my youth when I was your age, I went up to the Girdlestone Mines." Checker says, "The Girdlestone Mines? What is that?" "Well, that mine shut down a long time ago. Stopped being profitable." Checkers goes, "Oh, really? Do you think that there might be any gold in this mine?" "Maybe. I don't know." Checkers says, "Well, do you think that there's anything you can give me? Maybe, because I'm probably going to go check this out later." "Give me 5 gold and I'll draw you a map of the place." Checkers seems pleased with this. He hands over 5 gold. "Come back in a week's time." Checkers is satisfied with this, so he leaves and goes to join the party at the inn. The party starts to prepare for their barge trip, getting all their supplies in order, getting arrows, things like that. On the day they reach the barge and they see there are 2 muscular men, though not as muscular as their own fighter. It was really early in the morning, right before dawn, and Zoogle was taking watch along with one of the guards. I have Zoogle make a perception check, but he fails. I asked the party to roll initiative as they described that from the woods on either side of the river, groups of bandits jump out. They can see that above the river, about 30 feet above them, there is a man flying with no wings. The party realizes they're in bad trouble as the bandits get to go first. Some of these bandits are fighters, but some of these bandits are rogues that have the assassin subclass. Whenever you have the assassin subclass and you hit somebody while they're in surprise, you automatically score a critical hit on them. Now, my critical hit rolls are very much inspired by the Bill Allen damage alternative scoring system. The way this critical hit rule works is that you automatically max out the dice on your weapon, and then you get to roll the dice again, adding it to the damage that you're doing. Let's say that these assassins are using longbows, I believe that they were. That means that you're automatically doing 8 damage. You get to roll 1d8, and let's say they have a dexterity score of 16, you get to add plus 3. Now, 2 of these assassins attacked Zoogle, which means he automatically took 30 damage, dropping him from 32 hit points to 2. This was supposed to be a tough encounter for the party, but nobody really took a lot of damage except for Zoogle. Zoogle went down about 3 separate times in this combat. The way I compensate for this critical hit rule is that I also rule that all healing potions do the max amount of healing that they can. The party has some basic healing potions given to them by Cooper, so they used about 3 of them to get Zoogle up. It was a pretty intense battle. The monk was able to jump off the barge and run across the water to get to one side where some of the bandits were and start beating them up. The bandits on the other side kept taking hits at ADS and Dusk. The bandit priest, which is the guy who was flying, he kept targeting Zoogle with all of his special powers. Now, this guy was pretty high level, and he was very obviously a different class than anyone else. I believe the evil priest was a 6th level death cleric, was how I transported him, but he also had some other mystical powers given to him by his god. Despite the combat being very long, it wasn't very exciting. There wasn't a lot of things that happened, unless you were Zoogle. One interesting thing that happened is that the priest flew down in order to attack Zoogle, but he ran out of movement. Alden had finished up the fighters and the bandits on one side of the river, so he went and he ran back onto the barge. Alden quickly took care of this priest, killing him. The combat continued as the fighters on the other side of the river still shot arrows at them, and whenever the priest's turn came around again, I said, "You see the priest's dead body spilling blood start to contort and rise from the deck of the barge." The party realized that they were in deep trouble. The undead priest rose and he flew into the air. He thrust out his hand and said, "Rise!" All around the barge, zombies and skeletons started clawing their way out of the ground. The priest started to fly south towards the Thornwood. The party made quick work of these skeletons and zombies. Zoogle used his turn undead to make them all flee. Now, an observant viewer might notice that I haven't talked about the Bargemen at all in this entire encounter. That's because they immediately died the first round of combat due to the arrows from the thieves. The party decided to go ahead and try to loot the bandits for magic items, which they were able to successfully do. The bandits do indeed have magical items on them. One of them has a +1 longbow, and one of them has a +1 longsword. They also find some other various things, a gem-encrusted ring and a golden belt buckle, which they think might fetch a couple of bones down at some kind of store. The party wrapped up the 2 bodies of the Bargemen, probably hoping to give them some kind of burial, but they made their way onto Third Master. After they arrived in Third Master, I looked at the clock, and it was about 1 in the morning, I believe. We had been playing for 5 hours again, and I said, alright guys, I think this is a good place to stop. The party talked about the session for a while. I said, well, I really expected that to be a lot harder for you guys, and Zugo went, dude, are you kidding me? I died like 3 times. I said, well, you didn't die, you just went unconscious, alright? It's almost as if you're targeting me or something. Oh, I am targeting you. What is that supposed to mean? Well, you might find out next time. With that, we ended the session, and the party went to have a good sleep. Now that the initial story is over, this is the second part of the video where I talk about things that changed and things that happened and all that other cool stuff. Overall, I think the session could have been better paced. They didn't really get a lot done, but then again, they didn't really need to. They had a lot of downtime. They went and talked to some NPCs. They did this barge job. The combat, I think, dragged on for a little while, and even though Zoogle went down about 3 times, I really don't think I did a good job of challenging the players. Also, the party itself seems to be wandering around this world, not really with any kind of sense of purpose, and I think that's partially my fault as well as the adventurers. The adventure doesn't really do a good job of getting the players hooks. It kind of just expects them to go out and talk to every villager and to go and look out jobs and do all this cool, fun side quest stuff. Kind of expects the party that whenever stuff starts to happen, they want to fix it to get gold. And while that is true to a certain extent now, the players all, I think, are looking more towards, okay, now when does my backstory that I wrote come into this? Now, I didn't ask the players to write a backstory, I asked them to write about how they knew each other. But some of the players sent me really long backstories, and really this adventure isn't going to incorporate that, and I feel like I flipped them down a little bit. I've already done Session 4, this video is being recorded about 2 weeks after Session 3. This whole coronavirus thing really slowed down video production. Now, I'll talk about the 4th session in the next episode, but the players just need something to put a little bit of a spring in their step, and hopefully in the 5th session that'll come to fruition. Other than that, I didn't really change a lot. One thing I did change, and if you're one of my players, stop watching now. One thing that I did change is that the priest does not come back to life after he dies. I made that up. Well, I say made that up. I stole that from Matt Colville. Because the battle had been going on for a pretty long time, and I feel like the party was getting pretty bored of it, and I wanted something cool to happen. Him being undead isn't really going to change a lot. They're going to find him, they're going to kill him, they're going to do all this other stuff. The only reason that he's undead is because of his prayer to his deity. I don't believe there's anything else that really happened during the game that I can really comment on, really because I'm filming this video so late that it's not really fresh in my mind. Maybe for the 4th session or 5th session that I film, things will be a little bit different. I can't really think of anything else that really happened. I posted my first video on YouTube, and I posted it on the MCDM subreddit, and it got a lot of good reviews, I think. A lot of people seem to enjoy it, so I posted the second video. The second video didn't really get a lot of track, but hopefully this one will, because I want people to be able to enjoy all this during this whole coronavirus shutdown. Now, we play D&D every week, but we play it over Discord, so there's no risk of any of us getting sick. Thank you for watching this video. It really puts a smile on my face to see how some people react to it. If you have any tips and tricks about improving the experience for Night Below in order to converting it to 5th edition, because it really just lacks a lot of what modern day gamers would call role-play hooks. It's very hack and slash, but I like all that. I feel like it's good for the gaming culture in order to reflect and see how far we've come or how things have changed and all that good stuff. Alright, I'm done babbling now. Thank you so much for watching. You'll see the end card in a second. Feel free to check out some of my other videos. Peace!